This week's column, we're talking about physiology of a grape. So this isn't a vinifera, it's not a wine-producing grape, but this is a grape I grow in my backyard. So what we're going to talk about is this harvest season. So in the Okanagan right now, last week we were picking Sauvignon Blanc, the early ripening varietals. So we're talking about grapes. You need them to be super acidic and picked young for any bubble. So here we have Donna Lozetta. So that's a grape that they're going to pick before it fully ripens, like this one. Then, of course, white grapes will also ripen. It's a term called veraison, when the grape goes from a tiny green bead and it turns a little bit blush or a little bit red. When it forms that full color, that process is called veraison. But here we go, and then fully into the reds. Last ripening, your Cab, your Merlot, your Nebbiolo. So when you're looking at a grapevine, if you go into a vineyard, you'll see, of course, when they're picking them, the winemaker and the vineyard manager will taste them. And they'll also check, because the skin is where the tannin comes from, the skin and the seed inside. And the seed inside gives a really good indication of what you're going to get on this harvest. So when you open up this grape, and being that this grape is from my yard, it's hard to tell, but deep inside this little berry is a little tiny seed, and we call it a pip, more than one seed. And it's really quite fun because birds don't bother these grapevines at first, because unless there's a sugar ripeness to attract them, they're really bitter and unpalatable to the birds. So the idea is when they're ready to germinate, when the seed is ripe, it's nutty, the birds like it, there's sugar in the grape, and that's when it's a danger, and that's when harvest season comes, a very critical time for every winemaker and every vineyard. So now this little seed, if you could see it, is brown. It has a nuttiness, and they will taste it. The winemaker, the vineyard managers, they will taste the seed to get that ripeness of a grape. So we're all talking about harvest now. It's September, everybody's in full swing. So it's really important to think about how these vines are doing, what it tastes, and if you think, I mean, this tannin will come from the skin, this little seed called a pip, and if there's any of this stem into the crush when they're crushing, that's the tannin. So right now, have some fun. Get out and try some varietals that are ripening now. Sauvignon Blanc, your early varietals like Cabernet Franc, Viognier, to the late red grapes like Cabernet Sauvignon, Nebbiolo, Merlot. Have some fun and think about what people are doing out in those vineyards and how they're picking these little grapes. Have a great day.